In 2003, a group of researchers in Paris asked a question nobody had properly answered. What is the point of a hiccup? It doesn't clear your airway. It doesn't help digestion. It doesn't protect your lungs. Every other reflex your body has, coughing, sneezing, blinking, has a clear, obvious function. Hiccups don't. Unless you stop looking at lungs and start looking at gills. Let's start with what you actually know. You've had hiccups, probably hundreds of times. Maybe you ate too fast, maybe you drank something fizzy, maybe they just showed up for no reason at all. Here's what happens inside your body. Your diaphragm, the big dome-shaped muscle under your lungs, suddenly contracts hard. It yanks downward, pulling air in fast. And then, about 35 milliseconds later, your glottis slams shut. That's the little flap at the top of your throat. Air rushes in, the door closes, and you get that sound. Hic! The whole thing takes less than a quarter of a second. You don't choose it, you can't stop it, and your conscious brain, the part that does your thinking, your planning, your decision-making, has absolutely no say in whether it happens. That should bother you, because your body doesn't waste energy on nothing. Every reflex you have was shaped by millions of years of natural selection. Coughing clears your airway. Sneezing ejects irritants. Blinking protects your eyes. Every single one earned its place. So either hiccups are the one exception, the one reflex evolution kept running for no reason, or the reason is so old, we stopped recognizing it. And that question haunted scientists for a very long time. For most of medical history, hiccups were treated as a nuisance, a minor curiosity, something to endure. In extreme cases, a medical emergency. Charles Osborne, a farmer from Iowa, started hiccuping in 1922 after trying to weigh a hog. He hiccuped roughly once every 10 seconds for the next 68 years. He didn't stop until 1990. An estimated 430 million hiccups. Doctors tried everything. Nothing worked. Nobody could explain why. Until someone thought to look backwards. Way, way backwards. In 2003, Dr. Christian Straus and his team at the Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris published a paper in the journal BioEssays that changed how scientists think about this problem. They didn't try to find a modern use for hiccups. Instead, they asked a different question. What if hiccups aren't for us at all? Their proposal was radical. Hiccups, they argued, are a vestigial reflex, a leftover piece of biological hardware inherited from an ancestor that breathed underwater. Specifically, tadpoles. Before a frog becomes a frog, it's a tadpole. It lives entirely underwater. It breathes through gills. And to push water across those gills while protecting its developing lungs from flooding, it uses a very specific motor pattern. It contracts its respiratory muscles rapidly, draws water in across the gills, and then immediately closes its glottis, the opening to its developing lungs, to stop water from getting in. Rapid contraction, inhalation, glottal snap. That sequence should sound familiar, because it's exactly what your diaphragm and throat do every time you hiccup. The rhythm, the timing, the sequence of muscle activations, they match. You're not glitching, you're running gill software. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Straus and his team didn't stop at the muscle pattern. They traced the neural circuitry, and what they found made the case even stronger. The brain region that controls hiccups is the brainstem, the oldest, deepest part of your central nervous system. It's the same region that controls breathing, heart rate, and swallowing. This is not the part of your brain that evolved recently. This is the part that was already ancient when dinosaurs walked the earth. And the specific circuit that fires during a hiccup, the pattern generator, is virtually identical to the circuit that drives gill ventilation in amphibians. Same nerve pathways, same muscle coordination, same glottal closure timing. The only difference is what's being moved. In a tadpole, it's water across gills. In you, it's air into lungs. The reflex doesn't match your anatomy, it matches theirs. But here's the thing. If this were just a coincidence, two similar-looking reflexes in two very different animals, that would be one thing. But it's not a coincidence. You and that tadpole share a common ancestor. Roughly 370 million years ago, before vertebrates had fully committed to life on land, your lineage and theirs diverged. And the reflex was already there, already wired in, already running. It never stopped. And it isn't unique to you. Every mammal on Earth can hiccup. Cats, dogs, rats, horses. the reflex fires across species, which means whatever circuit is responsible was already locked in before any of these animals existed. This isn't a quirk of human biology. It's a feature of vertebrate anatomy that predates the evolution of fur. But that raises an even stranger question. If this reflex is burned this deep into the brainstem, if it's this universal, this ancient, when does it first switch on inside you? The answer is unsettling. Here's where it gets really interesting. Human fetuses start hiccuping in the womb as early as 8 weeks into development. 8 weeks! The lungs aren't even close to functional yet. The fetus is the size of a raspberry. It's not breathing air. It's floating in amniotic fluid. And it's hiccuping. By the 3rd trimester, fetuses can spend up to 2.5% of their entire day hiccuping. That's more time than they spend doing almost any other movement. Ultrasound technicians see it all the time. Parents feel it. It's one of the earliest coordinated movements a developing human makes. And for decades, nobody could explain why. In 2012, Dr. Daniel Howes at McMaster University in Ontario published a paper building on Straus's work. He proposed that in newborns, hiccups might serve a secondary purpose, clearing swallowed air from the stomach during breastfeeding, a built-in burp reflex. That would explain why infants hiccup so much more frequently than adults. Newborns can hiccup for up to 2.5% of their day. For an adult, that number drops to almost nothing. But even Howes was careful to note, the origin of the reflex goes back far further than mammals, far further than breastfeeding, far further than anything with a placenta. The wiring is ancient. Think about that. You are 8 weeks old, floating in fluid, not yet breathing, and your brainstem is already running a motor program written for a gill-breathing animal that lived before flowers existed. You did this. Before you had a name, before your mother knew who you were, before your lungs had ever touched air. You were hiccuping, rehearsing a reflex from a creature that breathed water in an ocean that no longer exists. And you had no say in it. You still don't. Now, let's talk about why random things seem to trigger hiccups. Eating too fast, drinking something carbonated, a sudden temperature change, laughing too hard, swallowing air, stress. These triggers seem completely unrelated, but they all have one thing in common. The phrenic nerve. This is the nerve that controls your diaphragm. It originates in your neck, cervical vertebrae C3 to C5, and runs all the way down through your chest to reach the diaphragm at the bottom of your ribcage. It's one of the longest, most convoluted nerve paths in your body. And for a human, it takes a bizarre, winding route. It passes right next to your esophagus, loops near your heart, threads between major blood vessels. It wasn't designed for this layout. It was designed for something much simpler. In a fish, this nerve was short and direct. The gills sat right next to the brainstem. The wiring ran a few centimeters at most. Simple, efficient. But as vertebrates evolved, as necks got longer, as the breathing apparatus migrated from the throat down into the chest, the nerve had to stretch. It couldn't rewire from scratch. Evolution doesn't do clean redesigns. It just extends what's already there. The result is a nerve that runs an absurdly long path through your body, brushing past organs and structures it was never meant to interact with. Eat too fast, and your expanding stomach presses against it. Drink something cold, and the temperature shift near your esophagus irritates it. Laugh hard enough, and the pressure changes in your chest set it off. You're not hiccuping because something is wrong. You're hiccuping because your body is running wiring laid out for a fish. And that's why none of the cures reliably work. You've tried them. Everyone has. Hold your breath. Drink water upside down. Breathe into a paper bag. Have someone scare you. Swallow a spoonful of sugar. Some of these occasionally work. Most of the time, they don't. And the reason is simple. You're trying to override a brainstem reflex with a conscious action. You're using the newest part of your brain to fight the oldest part. And the oldest part almost always wins. The brainstem doesn't take orders from your prefrontal cortex. It doesn't care that you're in a meeting. It doesn't care that you're on a first date. It doesn't care that you're giving a presentation to 40 people. It doesn't care that you're trying to fall asleep at 2 a.m. It fires when it fires, based on signals from nerves that were routed through your body hundreds of millions of years ago. Your breath holding, your water drinking, these are attempts to stimulate the vagus nerve, which can sometimes reset the hiccup reflex. But sometimes is the key word. The reflex is deep, it's ancient, and it is very, very stubborn. You can't reason with 370 million years of evolution. You just have to wait it out. Here's the part that gets me. You carry reflexes from creatures you will never see. Neural circuits wired for gills you will never have. Motor programs designed for breathing water in a body that would drown in it. Your brainstem doesn't know the gills are gone. It never got the update. It runs the same program it's been running since before trees existed, since before the first animal crawled out of the ocean and took its first painful breath of air. 370 million years, and the code is still there. Not because it's useful, not because it helps you, but because evolution never deletes anything. It just buries it, layers new systems on top, hopes the old ones stay quiet. Your appendix, your wisdom teeth, your tailbone. Your body is a museum of things that used to matter, but most of those relics sit silent, unused, inert. Hiccups are different. Hiccups still fire, still interrupt, still remind you. Remind you that your body wasn't built for the world you live in, that the thing you call you is running on hardware assembled over hundreds of millions of years for environments nothing like the one you wake up in every morning. The anxiety you can't explain, the restlessness at 2 a.m., the vague feeling that something about the way you live is slightly off. Those aren't failures. Those are ancient systems still expecting a world that disappeared a long time ago. Hiccups are just the one you can hear. And then, at dinner, mid-sentence, mid-bite, your diaphragm slams down, your throat snaps shut, and for a quarter of a second, your body remembers something your mind never knew. You were a fish once. Your body never forgot.